Hello, my name is Ben, aka Nightingale TCG, and today we are back with another UP Sanji video. More specifically, an UP Sanji video where I'm discussing and showing how you beat the Dofi matchup. I've had quite a few people in my comments, both on YouTube and on Twitter, telling me that this is a matchup they are struggling with. And while this is a difficult matchup, I definitely don't think it's an unwinnable matchup. I think it's actually decently close to 50-50 if you know how to play it. But it is a matchup that is counterintuitive and where you have to switch up your strategy a lot back and forth depending on what your opponent decides to do with his leader ability and which characters he plays down, etc. It requires a lot of adaptability on Sanji's side. I have a friend who's been maining Dofi since OP14 came out, so I asked him whether he would like to help me out in a video, so we decided to play 5 games against each other, where we alternate between going first and second each time, and now I'm gonna take that footage and commentate over it to tell you guys exactly what my thought processes were within each game and each situation. And hopefully this will help you out as a Sanji player, if you are a Sanji player, to win this matchup as well. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the gameplay. If you do, please consider liking and subscribing as it helps me out a lot and it's completely free. And if there are any other matchups you would want me to tackle with Sanji specifically, I can see if I can find somebody else to play against and see how those go. Alright, game 1. He chose first. In these games we will be alternating between who goes first and who goes second. In general, Sanji wants first against Dofi because Sanji is a deck that just wants to simply take away your opponent's curve. And Dofi is a deck that functions best going first, so we are simply looking to disrupt him. In this case, we have to go second, so when going second we are mainly looking for 2 things, which is 2 searches. In this case, we have 2 searches in hand, which means that we're going to keep them. Against Dofi, ideally I would want one of these searches to be a 1-cost pudding, because of things like this, where he plays out a sugar. I would want a small body to play out in order to contest this sugar, but pudding, because we only play 2 of them in our deck, is not something we can allow ourselves to mulligan for. In this case, I could have potentially searched with the top 3 Luffy is the man searcher first, just in case we would find pudding, which we would have in this case, so that is an optimization I could have made, but it also means we can see less far into the deck, and my highest priority in this moment, because we've top decked Sanji, is to find buff burst for next turn. So I'd rather just see 5 deep in order to find buff burst. Either way. I can here decide between the top 3 or teardrops. The Dofi matchup is one that heavily relies on the power on your 3-cost Sanjis being high in power. So grabbing one early to potentially buff your Sanjis up later in the game does matter. We do end up finding the buff burst, which is very good, which means that our next turn is already pretty set up. He searches with the sugar. He finds a Virgo, which is the one card that makes this matchup very tough. Now, on this turn, even though he found a Virgo, if I would have a Jozu in hand, I would decide to play this Otama down in order to have something to bounce in the case where I would want to play Jozu anyways. Because Dofis, they don't really like playing Virgo on 5 Don, because they'd rather play something like Sugar or Monet where they get to ramp to 8 Don. So they sometimes decide to not play out Virgo on 5 Don even though they have it. Which means that Jozu as a response on 6 Don is still a very viable play. However, in this moment we do not have a Jozu in hand, so just playing down Otama to hope that we can find a Jozu is not a good strategy. So we are just going with our usual game plan, and we are playing the Sanji. We're using leader ability for buff burst, and then we're searching once. Red Rock is irrelevant now, because we know that he has Virgo in hand, so I'd rather take either Giant or the Stealth Black. In this case it's Stealth Black, because I know I have a 2k Sanji in hand, which means that now my next turn I am able to play Sanji into Stealth Black and get 2 Sanjis out. And I don't want to take the Giant because we already have 1 Giant in hand, so it's not a desperate need. And I have other plays on that turn anyways. I can play Sanji now, and then probably play buff Stealth Black. I'm searching first to buff my Sanjis up. This is a bit of an annoying choice because I have to choose to either trash a giant or to take buff burst. I decided to take buff burst because I don't want to go too low in hand size in this matchup, or in any matchup really. And then I'll play the 6-cost Sanji out and I swing at lead. He's going to redirect it. And I am able to swing with my 3-cost Sanji here because his best play next turn is to play 8-cost Dofi. So if he plays 8-cost Dofi, the only swing that's going to come at this Sanji is a 6 with Monet, which I'm not that scared about because I have double 2Ks in hand. And even if he would decide to swing high into the Sanji, I left the Don up just in case. I would want to giant, but best case I really don't because I don't want to go too low down in Don this early in a matchup. He's thinking here. I know that he does that because we are on voice chat, so I know he doesn't have an 8-cost Dofi, and he's thinking about what to do here, whether he wants to swing 6-6 or 6-8 into the Sanji, and he decides to go 6-6 because he wants to search with Sugar in order to potentially find a better play next turn. And then afterwards he's most likely going to play down Virgo, because if he does not play down Virgo, he's in a pretty bad spot. I have a lot of, I have basically buff burst and brushette blow right now that I would want to use to minus Don for my leader ability, but because he's higher Don than me, I can afford to swing first to get the rested Don and then reevaluate what I want to do. I keep searching, I'm checking now whether I have a Sanji in my trash, but I don't, so grabbing Stealth Black is irrelevant. And I don't really have another play. I could grab one of the search events, but I think I'm just grabbing another buff burst to just get more card draw in this case. And now I can find another Sanji. And now I'm debating on how I want to swing. I'm swinging 7 at lead here first, because he still has a redirect that he's able to use. And if he takes here, I'm just going to keep swinging at life. If he decides to counter, then I'm going to start swinging at the Monet. Also, if he decides to redirect, I will start swinging at the Monet as well, if he redirects into like the Virgo and gives me a 1k or something. He decides to counter. So now I'm going to switch my focus into the Monet because I do want to control the board. With Sanji against Dofi in this matchup, there's a balance you have to strike between that you want to be aggressive because you don't want the game to go on for too long. Because if the game goes on for too long, he's going to overwhelm you with like 2 8-cost Dofis and a 10-cost Dofi. But at the same time, you don't want them to have too wide of a board, so you have to control the board a little bit. But you just have to adapt to whatever your opponent is playing. So he decides to let the Monet go, and then I'll play another Sanji out, and I'm just going to leave it Don up. Because I want to be able to protect my 3-cost Sanji just in case he decides to swing into it and minus with the Virgo, so that I could have Giant. He now decides to play Dofi into Virgo. I was kind of happy that he tapped the Virgo because it meant that I could potentially brushette blow into the Virgo, and if I get rid of it and I can find another Giant, another Red Rock, then I can get rid of the big body as well, but annoyingly he has a second Virgo. So now I have to adjust my game plan a little. I want to get a Don attached anywhere in order to minus the Don to play brushette blow and potentially go into the Virgo. So I will attach the Don to my blocker Sanji first, rather than swinging with my 7-cost Sanjis, because yeah, I want to use the Don so I don't waste an active Don on my leader ability. It's somewhat inefficient because if he has slow beam, I in a way wasted a Don because I attached one to a 6k body even though I had 7k bodies on the board, but it feels better this way. He's going to use Dofi ability and then he is going to use slow beam, which is okay. I'm not too upset about this, especially because he has to give me another 1k. So I'll use brushette blow now, and now I'll start swinging to the board again. He protected his life, and the moment he protects his life, I'm going to go after his board. He already redirected into the Dofi once, so he doesn't have a redirect anymore. And because it seems like he's been struggling to counter out of 7k swings, I'll just keep swinging 7s. I could have swung 8 here, but it's basically no difference. So I'd rather just keep more Don up, even though it's a kind of overkill. And then I'll play the pudding down, because the pudding is going to be able to eat up at least a single swing from this 10-drop Dofi or the 9-drop Dofi. He now swings into the blocker Sanji, which I have to decide on whether I want to protect. I can giant out of it, and then I can 2k afterwards, and I can block 1. And I'm deciding that it's worth it to do it, to keep the Sanji on the board. And now it's even better because I have drew into another stealth black, so that I can give my blocker Sanji that I'll be able to play out of trash next turn, and I can just give the pudding. Otherwise, I could have just used pudding ability on the Culverin to do that. And now, same logic as before. I want to attach a Don first because I want to have a Don to use. And I'm not scared of tapping my blocker and dying next turn because he just doesn't have enough power. And I have 4 Concassés in hand, so I'm never dying if he tries to go for game. And I want to swing 10 here because in the case where he redirects, I want to at least take a card out of his hand. And if he doesn't redirect, he has to take his last life. And then he's not going to be able to play another 10-drop Dofi because he minus too much Don. And he didn't have like a Pika or a Rosie on the board where he could re-ramp the Don with 8-cost Dofi. So I'm just forcing the issue. And now he's in a difficult spot. He has to, like, he could maybe play like a baby 5 or potentially 2 baby 5s to try and survive for longer. But it seems like he doesn't have many options, so he's going to try to go for game. And going for game is never going to happen with the hand I have. Even here decides to swing 8 instead of 10, so I don't even have to give away the Sanji blocker. And that's just GG. I pressed away too quickly because he conceded, and then there's the rematch button at the bottom immediately. But I know because he told me that he had another 2 2Ks and a 1K in hand. And if you look at the board state, he's never living this. He didn't have like an event in hand. He was bluffing or was hoping that he could find one in life. But even if he does, it's not enough to survive. Alright, game 2. This time we are allowed to go first. We are essentially looking like in any other game, we're just looking to find Sanji buff burst on 3 Don. That's the ideal thing. But if we don't have that, we are looking for searchers. I like the hand I have because I have 2 searchers in hand, which is good enough. And this one searcher can find me a Sanji. And if this searcher finds me a Sanji, then I can just play Sanji and use lead ability next turn on the 1-cost event and get there too. Again, it's a bit annoying that we didn't have a 1-drop pudding, but we can't search for that necessarily. We now have one, and we have the option to grab one, and I will take it, because if I can next turn play this pudding down, and then afterwards he does not play a Virgo, his whatever character he plays is going to get bounced with Jozu and this pudding. I'll end my turn. He's such a treble of the Dellinger. I'll take the 5 here because I potentially want to play Otama next turn. This baby 5 is interesting. It's essentially, he didn't have a sugar, so he's playing baby 5 instead to ramp, which is fine. And then he searches for the Monet. I'll search with pudding. If I would find a Culverin here, I would use it to bottom deck the baby 5, but sadly I haven't. I'm now debating on whether I want to ditch this 2k Sanji to play out with Stealth Black, which I do. And then I will go 5 at the sugar. And then I'm going to search once and I'm going to play pudding most likely. I'm pretty sure that's the game plan I have. I'm searching with teardrops to buff my Sanjis up. This search is very annoying. The reason I'm searching with teardrops here is because I'm 2 away from the Sanji going to 6. So I would want this Sanji to go to 6 before I swing, especially because then it's 6 on defense as well. So I'm using teardrops in the hopes to find 2 events. Well, in the hopes to find basically 1 more event to trash in this search. Annoyingly, we find double Sanji and a buff burst, and I kind of want to take both the buff burst and the 3-cost Sanji, but I will decide on the buff burst because it's more impactful later on in the game. Now, unfortunately, the Sanji is in the 6k, but if we play pudding down and we counter with anything, the Sanji becomes a 6k anyways, and he gets a ram trigger which is very annoying because now he's on 8 Don when he never should be. On 8 Don, it means though that we can just free block with our 6-cost Sanji, but we are in a bit of trouble now. We can't really take another buff burst, so I think I'm going to take the Giant just to have some protection. This Red Rock is useless now. I'm going to take the Bruchette Blow because my way out of this game is if he rests the Virgo, he doesn't have another Virgo, I can Bruchette Blow the Virgo, swing into it, and then Red Rock his 8 Dofi on the same turn. That's my out in this game because he had a ramp trigger, and the ramp trigger is very, very difficult to beat. I'm gonna go 5 at lead. I'm gonna play to the best of my abilities. The good thing is, because I have 2 blockers down, I am able to rest this Sanji without being too afraid. Because also we have a Giant in hand, so we can at least protect him once. And then worst case, we can give both blockers to save him. Gonna pass my turn. He's gonna go 5 at lead, which actually is quite annoying because it's a free block, but I don't really want to give the free block because if I give the free block, then he can potentially tax this Sanji quite a bit. So I'm taking this life, and then he plays another 8 Dofi into a Monet, and now it gets difficult. He then swings with 9 Dofi, which I'll decide to concasse plus 1k with Jozu because the Jozu is irrelevant now. And then he passes. He doesn't even swing with Virgo, which is like worst case scenario. I really wanted him to swing with Virgo here so that I can swing back into it with Bruchette Blow, and then I can Red Rock at least one of these 8-cost Dofis, but he doesn't give me the option to. So I think the best thing I can do is try to just hit his face and potentially force him like into a spot where I can go for lethal. The problem is that I only have 2 Sanjis on the board, which is not really enough. So I'm going to try to go as wide as I can this turn by playing the other 3-cost Sanji and then using leader ability to play Stealth Black to play the Sanji I trashed earlier in the Teardrops event. Go 6 lead, I'm going to ramp. I'm also just waiting for him to use his redirect. And I'm swinging with leader first here because I wasn't 100... Like, if he doesn't redirect on this swing, then I would think about swinging with the Sanji. Then if he doesn't redirect it on this turn, then I have no reason to swing with the blocker Sanji. Now he didn't redirect, but he used slow beam, so I still have no reason to swing with the blocker Sanji, but my pudding is tapped, which is very annoying. So I play both Sanjis out, and I'll just pass. He swings into my pudding with his baby 5. I'll take the free block here, because I just want him to waste another swing into it, which is alright. And now I'm hoping for him to swing into my life or my Sanjis, my 7-cost Sanji, but very annoyingly he goes into for my blocker Sanji, which is like 6 into my blocker Sanji right now is worst case scenario because I don't have a 1k or a 2k to give. But I'm gonna try to defend this because I have more Giants in hand. I don't really want to use them, but at least I can potentially defend another turn and make him swing another high number into it. I could potentially Giant here again, but I would have to use... He has another 9 swing coming, and I would have to use so much Don here. I'm like in a lose-lose scenario either way here, because he's gonna play 10-drop Dofi as well to freeze the 3 Sanjis that are on board, so he doesn't even need to swing into my 3-cost Sanji. So he plays 10-drop, and he freezes everything, and it's pretty doomed here, but you have to keep in mind that the only reason we are in this situation is because he got a ramp trigger. If he got a ramp trigger, we could have played this game much slower. But we were forced into a very aggressive game, which never goes... Like, rarely goes great for us. Not never, but rarely. I'm gonna try something desperate here where I try to jet Culverin his baby 5. He decides to save it, so then his Virgo ability is gone. I can red rock his big body. And maybe he decides not to go for game with me having 2 Don up, or I can be lucky enough to survive and then potentially go for game the turn after if I can find like another Culverin or something. I have to take the first 9 because it's just about numbers at this point. I will then use Giant on his 9 swing. And now he's just debating on whether he needs to go for lethal / whether the lethal is guaranteed. But because I only have 1 Don up, the lethal is pretty guaranteed. Well, it is definitely guaranteed. I think even if I Giant here and I have only 2 Ks in hand, I'm pretty sure it's still mathematical lethal. He just is doing the math. So here comes the save 5 swing. And then he swings 15, where I Giant, and I don't have enough anymore. But you could see in this game, I think, that if he either didn't have Virgo, or if he didn't have the Ram trigger, or then afterwards on his 8 Don turn, didn't have Virgo, or he would have rested his Virgo early for us to Brochette blow into it and then red rock one of his big bodies, we had windows back into this game. But we got high rolled pretty much as hard as possible on this Dofi deck, so we ended up losing anyways. Which is fine. You'll not find a matchup that is this difficult or strategy that's this difficult where you will end up winning 100% of the time. It's just about giving you the best chances. Alright, game 3. I go second again. I am looking for double searchers again. So I'll mulligan and I find double searcher. Sadly, not a 1-cost pudding, but it's alright. We can't have the best curve possible. We are just looking for a 3-cost Sanji to pair this buff burst with. Which we do. I'll counter out with a 2k because I don't want to get too low. And then he actually ends up swinging with Dellinger as well. I'm just playing my Sanji buff burst thing as every single game. This is a bit annoying, but because we have buff burst and giant and we kind of want both. But because we saw 2 buff bursts there, I will have to grab that over the giant. And he searches the 8-cost Dofi with Dellinger. He has Monet here, and honestly, if I had Josu in this hand, I would potentially use it to bounce swing 5 with Sanji, use Josu to bounce the Sanji back and bounce the Monet just to have some board control. In this case, I'm playing down another Sanji, I'm using buff burst again, I'm swinging at lead, and then I'm gonna try to just search as much as I can. And well, actually, I think I'm going to search once, and I'm going to play Pudding down. I'm playing the 1-cost Pudding, just in case I find a Josu and he doesn't have a Virgo. I have to take the Giant here, because there were 2 Giants in that search. We already saw 1, if not the other 2, already in searches earlier. So I just have to grab the Giant here, so otherwise I have no way of protecting these Sanjis efficiently later in the game. I can rest the Sanji here very easily because I know he wants to play 8-cost Dofi. I even saw him search it, so there's no real way for him to swing into the Sanji. I also have a blocker Pudding down, so there's nothing really to worry about. I can take this first swing as well, even though it's a 5k, because I have Pudding on the board, so I can just ditch any card to give myself +2. And now he did not find Virgo. We have not seen Gravblade yet. In all the searches that we have, we still have Otama and a searcher in hand to potentially find either Gravblade or Josu. And we top deck Gravblade. Yes, this is lucky, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you see your cards and your opponent doesn't see exactly his cards. It's not like he saw badly here, he just didn't see Virgo on time. And we get to punish that immediately in the worst case possible. And we get to bottom deck it. he was understandably mad at that. I then played Teardrops because I want to try and buff these Sanjis as high as possible in this game. and we sadly didn't really find too many events in that to buff the Sanjis up, but it's okay. We find a 2k, and then we just swing 5, 6, 6. We'll leave it done up because we have Giant in hand, and because he only has the 8 cost Dofi there. Worst case scenario, he's gonna swing with Dofi, and with leader I can block the Dofi, swing with Pudding, and then the leader swing, however high it is, I can Giant. Now he did rest the Pudding, which is upsetting. So instead of using Giant or keeping Giant up, I'm just going to decide to search again, I'm pretty sure. And I'm not going to swing with these Sanjis. Or am I swinging? Okay, never mind. Never mind. I'm still swinging with these Sanjis because I think I'm just evaluating that there's no real way for him to swing twice high enough into the Sanjis for me to not be able to Giant out of at least a swing. At least one of them, and then him still not again being able to swing high into the other one. He finally finds Virgo, and he plays Baby 5 afterwards too. And now I have the debate on whether I want to swing high into his life or whether I want to swing into his 8 cost Dofi. Either way, I'm going to search first because I want to free up a Don to potentially use Brushhead Blow or Stealth Black with my leader ability. So here's the search. The red rock is irrelevant. But basically everything here is irrelevant, so I'm just grabbing the searcher again because we already have a Stealth Black in hand. But now my Sanji's up to 7, and I can think about where I want to swing. I decide that I want to potentially swing into this Dofi, so I'm gonna go 8 at it. We actually found another 3 cost Sanji of this Brushhead Blow, which means that which is something that we want to play. He uses did he use 0 cost event there? I think so. I think he used 0 cost event there, and now he redirects it into the Baby 5 and he heals. And then I'm going to swing another 8 because I want to play down another 3 cost Sanji and keep it done up to not lose. And I'm gonna play Stealth Black as well to have a blocker up. I'm debating on whether I want to play 2 cost Pudding. Oh, I actually end up playing 2 cost Pudding. Oh yeah, because I can't play Stealth Black anymore. Yeah, I don't know what I was yapping about. I was thinking that turn that I would want to potentially play Sanji Stealth Black, but I decide that I just want to play the Pudding to have a blocker down, because if he has a 10 drop Dofi, whether I have another Sanji down or not doesn't really matter. He's just going to freeze all of them. So I'd rather play the Pudding down and have a blocker lying there. He starts with a Surge, grabs a Baby 5, and he goes 9 at lead, which I'm thinking about whether I need to take or not. And I decided that there's no real harm in taking this one. And then because I was expecting more swings to come my way, but he actually stopped swinging completely, which makes sense because that prevents me from, if he doesn't have a lot of, if he doesn't have counter in hand, then it prevents me from swinging back into his board. So he essentially just took a life for free. So maybe I should have countered to force him to swing more or to let me stay at 1 life. But this is still a completely alright situation to be in. And now I'm going to do what I was talking about the turn before. I'm going to play Sanji into Stealth Black. I'm going to search first. I'm going to just look for counter. So I'm going to take the Concasse. And then I'll see... Well, I'm going to play the Sanji first. And then I'm looking for how high I want to swing this turn. With him only having 2 cards in hand, swinging 7 is completely fine. Especially because he can redirect still. So I don't really want to swing higher than 7s. He takes this. He hasn't redirected yet, so there's no point in swinging higher than a 7. Well, swinging higher than 5, because if he wants to, he just redirects. It's the same thing. It's a bit weird because I haven't used much Don this turn, but it's alright. We got the same amount of pressure as if we would have used the Don. On his turn, he plays a Sugar, just to have a target out that he can redirect into... that wouldn't die if he redirects into it. And then it would still get to play a card out. I'm not sure if it's correct because he he takes a 1k count out of his hand, but it's alright to do. I'm now at a spot in the game where I know I think I still have 3 more giants in my deck. And I'm gonna be a bit greedy here and block 2k and make him potentially swing more, but it still decides to not swing anymore. If it did swing, it didn't matter that much because I still had counter in hand. And I could have blocked 1 and then stealth blacked on the turn after again and play a blocker out. And now I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to feel what he has in hand. Going to see if he has a slow beam in hand. So I'm going to swing 7s first. I'm debating now on whether I could swing anything higher than 7 and potentially go for game. But I'm in the same spot as I was last turn. I do not need to go for game at all. I can just swing 7s and see what his response is. And he still hasn't used redirect, so I'm still waiting on that as well. And if he wants to redirect into the sugar and play something out, then I can potentially readjust on whether I want to go for game. I can even use this 2-cost pudding to potentially go for game. He's deciding to count out of this 7, which essentially means that if he has another 2k in hand, I can't go for game by splitting. So I'm just going to swing 5. And I'm just going to pass here. Because there's no reason to be greedy. I don't know if I have another 2k Sanji in trash. Maybe I could have swung another 7 with my 2k Sanji. And then play that out with Stealth Black again. But as I said, he still had redirect. So there's no point in swinging with one thing if he didn't... if I'm not going to swing with the other thing as well. And now he's forced to go for game. He's playing Usohachi. This feels very weird because I haven't used any Don on my turn. So I'm just gonna return active Don with the giant. But it's fine. I'm in such a commanding position that there's not much he can do. He's thinking on how he wants to split here, and he's gonna decide that he wants to split 7, 7, 6. Because if I if I don't have 2Ks in hand and blah blah blah, it could be enough, but it's not enough. There we go. Immediately into game 4. My approach doesn't change. It's still find a Sanji, find buff burst. We had it in opening hand, and we also had a 1-cost searcher, so there's no reason to mulligan. We grab another searcher to sculpt our hand even more. He again has double 1-drop, which is annoying, but it's fine. And then we play Sanji, use buff burst, we swing 5 at lead. We now find a Jozu, so kind of our mission... sorry. Our mission next turn is to find a 1-drop to play out, so that if he doesn't play Virgo on the turn after, but plays any other 5 or 4-drop, we get to bounce it with Jozu. Ooh, what happened there? What the hell? Okay, he swings... I think that's where we were. He swings 5 at lead. I'm using Stealth Black. Well, I'm getting Stealth Black trigger and I'm using it. And I'm trashing Red Rock here. Because most of the time the Red Rock is useless as long as he has Virgo. And we have a second one in our deck in case we would want to use it again. And now we find a 1-drop, which we'll use to search. Because we want to have a target to potentially play Jozu with. And then we're going to go 5 into the searcher, we're going to go 6 at lead, and pass. And now if he does not play a Virgo, his body's going to get bounced with Jozu. Even if he plays Virgo, I still could bounce the pudding and bounce his Virgo, or try to, and make him -1 and take him... Just take a Don away, because Virgo is still kind of my best... Jozu is still kind of my best play next turn, and it gives us a 1k back into hand. So I'm gonna do that, I'm pretty sure. I'm just gonna make him -a Don. So that if he plays 8-cost Dofi next turn and he doesn't play it into Rosie, he won't have Don up to ramp himself back up to 8. So I'm playing Jozu, I'm searching with leader ability. I'm going to keep a Don up so that I have Giant, so that if he decides to swing into these Sanjis, I will be able to defend them, unless he forgoes playing an 8-cost Dofi, which he does not want to do. So if he plays 8-cost Dofi and he wants to swing into the Sanjis by minusing affecting, then I can counter out of it. He's gonna go 5 at lead. I'm gonna 1k this. He's gonna play 8-cost Dofi, like I said, into Rosie, which is nice for him because it means he gets to ramp on his turn, and he doesn't swing with Virgo because he's too scared of Brushette Blow being able to swing back into him. I'm gonna play Teardrops here because my entire goal on this turn is to buff my Sanjis up as big as possible. Because I don't have Brushette Blow and he didn't rest anything, I'm just gonna search, play another Sanji down, and then I'm gonna swing a bunch of 7s at his life and see if he wants to potentially redirect it into a body, or whether he wants to redirect it into the baby 5 and heal. If he redirects it into the baby 5 and heals, he doesn't get to play 10 drop on his turn after, because he will be at 9 Don, which is also a benefit for me. Okay, he takes the first 7, so I'll just keep on doing what I'm doing. 7s are also good because they play somewhat around slow beam, meaning it's not a free slow beam, he has to give us another 1k afterwards as well. So I'll keep swinging my 7s, he still hasn't used redirect. He's already used his Dofi +1 Don. So if he wants to redirect anywhere, he's not going to be able to play 10 drop Dofi next time. Which is all I want. And he chooses not to redirect and just give me 2k, 1k. And this is an interesting search because I could grab Brushette Blow, I could grab Stealth Black, but I think it's too late for Brushette Blow because at this point I just want to go for his life. He's going to swing 7 at Jozu and I'm going to let that go because there's no point in defending it when there's another 5, 6, 9 coming my way afterwards. So I'd rather defend my life after, and if he would want to swing this 9 into the Sanji, I would be happier with that as well because I wouldn't have to take it, I could just Giant. Gonna start my turn with searching. My goal here is to keep on buffing my Sanjis and to get as much defense into my hand as possible so that I can survive another turn and hopefully go wide enough to swing back and go for lethal past this baby 5. So I'm gonna play double Stealth Black to play out 2 Sanji blockers, and I'm gonna go swing 7 at lead, which he decides to redirect, but if he redirects he goes minus a Don, which means he's only at 7 Don this turn, which isn't much. And now you can see me looking through my life and checking how many buff bursts and how many Culverins I've used. Because in order to go for game next turn, if I find... I still have searches in hand. I have like a... Yeah, I still have searches in hand. I have Otama, I have Searcher Pudding. And I also haven't seen a single Culverin this entire game if I paid attention to it properly. And I'm pretty sure that I'm decently through my deck, if not completely through my deck. So the chances that these Culverins are in life somewhere and that I could, or one of them is in life and I can find a second one of the search to double bottom deck this baby 5, or potentially even like a Culverin and a buff burst is enough as well because I can bottom deck once and then bounce once to get rid of this baby 5 so he doesn't get to heal. And here's the first Culverin I can find. And I'm not in danger of dying. I have 2 Giants in hand and a Conch Assay. So I'm just taking this other life as well because I'm very certain these Culverins are in life. And I was right. They were in life. And that's why tracking your deck is important. I'm still not like super good at it. I can be way better at it than I am. But it's enough to sometimes catch little moments where it matters and where it's literally the difference between potentially winning the game and losing the game. So now I'm just going to try to counter out of these swings as efficiently as possible without losing a body. So I'm gonna swing. I'm gonna counter this 10 with a concasse and a 2k, and then the other 2 swings that are gonna come my way, I'm gonna counter with giants. Luckily, he only ends up swinging 6 here, so I'll give him a block and a 1k. And he decides not to swing here with Rosie. I think he should have swung with Rosie, but it also it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Rosie swing would have just got gianted. So I'm gonna bottom deck 1 with the Culverin. And now he's thinking about whether he is able to let this go or not, but he's gonna realize that he's not able to let this go, so he has to use Virgo ability to save it. And then I'm gonna hit him with leader ability into another Culverin. And now, the only I'm checking now the events in my trash, and I'm realizing that I'm 1 off buffing these Sanjis, so I'm gonna use Concasse to buff them all to 9s. And now I think the only way I lose is if he has double slow beam in hand. I know he's gonna think about this attack for a while, so I'm gonna fast forward a little. But if he has double slow beam here, he could rest both the blockers. Both the 9-cost Sanjis, the 9k Sanjis, and give me a 1k. And then I'd have to go 7 again. And he could take that. And then if he has 2k, 1k, 1k in hand, I think he lives. But he doesn't seem to have slow beam. I think he was fishing for 1 in life. But just 1, he found actually 1. But 1 I think is not enough. 2k, 1k. And now it's just lethal, because out of the 7 he has to counter 2k, 1k, or well 3k I guess with 0 cost event, and then 8 is enough unless he had bullet strings in hand. But if he had bullet strings in hand, he would have already used it. But that's how we win game 4. And lastly, game 5. He chose first, so I have to go second this turn, this game. I'm looking again just for double search, which we did not find this time. This is a bit of a rougher hand. We have the worst searcher to start with. And here I don't even want to drop the giant, but grabbing the stealth black could be handy later on in the game. But I decide on grabbing the giant because I really don't like not having all 4 giants available in the game against the Dofi, where it becomes so important to have a lot of counter later on in the game, either to protect your 3-cost Sanjis or to just protect your life from all the 9, 10k swings that are coming your way. I'm taking a life here to fish a little bit for more viable plays. He also has double 1-cost Searcher, which is really annoying because now I have to swing into them with leader 2 turns in a row. We found another Searcher, which is nice, but we didn't really find anything great in it. We just replaced it with the same card. Now he has a 5 Don. He doesn't have a 5 drop, which is very good for us. But this Searcher is still annoying. He's gonna find a 2k, plays a baby 5 to ramp and plays a Dellinger. I'll bottom deck this baby 5 while I can with Culverin. He's gonna redirect into Dellinger. He searches, and I'm gonna have to swing into the sugar again. And that's a lot of aggression I have to, like, I don't have in the early game by just swinging into these searches, which is very annoying. I'm grabbing another searcher here. I'm gonna look for just better cards to play. Here's a buff burst, which is good next turn. And then I'm grabbing a pudding just to have more searches. Find another Sanji, find Brochette Blow. Just find things that can get me into a more favorable game state again. He has the best play in Dofi into Virgo. If he didn't have Dofi into Virgo here, I'm red rocking that Dofi immediately. But he did have it. We find another Sanji, which is nice. And then we get to use buff burst. We go 5 at lead. We go 7 at lead and 7 at lead because he doesn't really want to use leader ability this turn to redirect. Because if he does, he just goes down quite a bit in Don. Now I'm gonna have to take Brochette Blow, I'm pretty sure, because I want to potentially get rid of this Virgo. And just by grabbing Brochette Blow, I'm I'm giving him the option to... I'm making him afraid to swing with this Virgo. I still ditch the Red Rock because this is now a bit metagaming, I think, without realizing. I think in a random tournament against a random person, I am not ditching Red Rock here because I'm hoping still for him to swing with the Virgo, but because I've seen him never swing with the Virgo the moment I have a Brochette Blowout, it essentially becomes... I essentially know that he's not going to swing with it this turn. This Grav Blade would be so good. It would be so good, but his trigger, his protection effect is not only limited to his turn. It can be used on both turns, so I'm not going to use it. I'm now looking at how many cards I have in trash, how many events, and I'm debating on whether I want to swing into his life or whether I want to use Brochette Blow onto the Dofi to swing into the Dofi. And I decided I want to swing into the Dofi. And I'm going to try to buff these Sanjis up to 8. I make a stupid mistake here. Which is like... It's not that bad. Because essentially I'm using 3 Don here to buff my Sanjis up. And I thought I could draw 2 cards, but I had 7 cards in hand. It's alright. I used 3 Don on the buff burst to buff my Sanjis up by 1 Don each. So it's the same as if I would attach 3 Don underneath each Sanji. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm going to swing 8 into the Dofi and see if I can remove it. He's going to redirect into the Monet. Which lets him filter, which is pretty good. Because he didn't use slow beam, I'm now swinging 5 into lead. And I also... with the 5 into lead, I would have wanted him to 1k out of so that afterwards he has less counter to swing, to counter out of the Dofi swings. He found the slow beam in life, annoyingly, so he did manage to slow and tap down my blocker, which is upsetting because now I'm in lethal range. Or at least potential lethal range, but he doesn't even go for it, he just freezes my 3 Sanjis, which is painful. And now he tries to remove my blocker Sanjis as well, which I'll let him do because there's no point defending that. I'm going to take one, well, I'm going to giant 1/9, I'm going to take 1/9, I think. That's my game plan. Yep. And then I will swing 5 at lead, see if he wants to redirect. He just takes. So I'll take another 5, I'll swing another 5 with pudding. Because it's the only thing I can really use the Don on. And then I'll play 1 pudding. Maybe I could have played down 2 puddings. But it's alright. I'm going to use Giant and 2k out of his first swing. Then the second swing I'll Giant again. Give him another 2k. I wish I could like use this pudding ability after the Giant, but sadly I can't. So I'm gonna have to Giant again, and we didn't find a 1k, so I'm gonna have to use +4 on this. But I'm not dead this turn, because I have one swing I can block with pudding, and the other one I can +4 and use pudding on. Then he plays another baby 5 to survive. And he goes 5 at lead, 6 at lead, and I have to block. And now I'm in a position where I could potentially go for lethal. Like, this is still much closer than I thought it would be. I'm gonna check whether I could potentially do the same trick of finding double Culverin or Culverin buff burst to get rid of this baby 5. if I am lucky enough to search both. And I'm saying lucky, I mean I can essentially see my entire deck bar one card. But I'm going to check my trash in a second. I'm noticing that I've used both Culverins and I've used 3 buff bursts, so that's no longer an option. So I just have to cleanly go for game. And here I go 10. If he has a slow beam, he wins. It is what it is. He now does a mistake where he double ramps with these 8 cost Dofis, and because he's already at 10 done, he's losing an active done by ramping, but we'll pretend that he has 2 done because that's never happening in real life. It's just a sim thing. And he doesn't actually have a slow beam yet. I know that because I was talking to him about it. And I was saying, if you get a slow beam out of life, you win anyways because of the Don thing that happened. And he does actually end up getting a slow beam out of this first life. Yep, he's telling me now, oh, that was a slow beam. So I'm just saying, well, then I lose because if he can counter out of my swing now alongside the slow beam, I lose because I'm going to go 10 with Sanji and then he's going to rest. He would theoretically rest the pudding if he just had these 2 done up, which he should have. So he's going to counter as if. So he can get to a 9 plus slow beam. It's an 11. He taps down the pudding. He stays at 1 life and I can't go for game. So it's GG's because he got the slow beam out of life. Otherwise, I would have been able to crawl this game back. Alright, that was the 5 games. We ended up going 3-2, which is pretty good for a matchup that is believed to be heavily unfavored for Sanji. I know this was a lot of information condensed into one, but hopefully I did a decent job to explain to you guys and to show you guys more specifically how this matchup can be played and how it is winnable, so that you can go to your locals or play in tournaments or just play on the sim and just have an upper hand on the Dofi players in the matchup. I hope the video was useful. If you want something similar with other matchups, let me know, and apart from that, I just wish you have a good day.